tell you what.
All right, guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Retic Lounge. I want to thank y'all for rocking with me for one more week, maybe a couple more while Lucas is away, getting the new baby all situated, settled, and getting into his routine over at the lab. But tonight we have a fun one. Before we get into who we have on or what we're doing tonight, I just want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon family. You can join us over there at patreon.com/the Retic Lounge. In my opinion, we have one of the best Reptile/Retic Discords going on. We have a ton of people over there, just adding a ton of benefit. Great community that, is just super active all the time, picking each other's brains, adding great information, great content over there, sharing some amazing animals. So, if you want in on the fun, make sure to go down to patreon.com/the Retic Lounge. Before we get into anything, I want to give a quick shout out to Cold Blooded Cafe. For your best source of reptile feeders, make sure to visit Des over at Cold Blooded Cafe. Use that code Reptile Lounge 20 for 20% off. And then I believe if you still are purchasing over $200 worth of feeders, you get free shipping as well. So get the best bang for your buck, get a couple $100 worth of feeders, get 20% off with our code, and you will not regret it. You can't provide your snakes or your reptiles with any more quality feeders than stuff sourced here in the USA, and Des and the team over there make sure that happens. Tonight we have one of our Patreon members, I should say, joining us. This is actually one of the first Patreon members that I got the pleasure to visit with in person at my first Tinley a couple years ago. It's Chris Schar. He's over on Instagram as Schar_92. Chris is a passionate reptile keeper. He's been keeping for years, and recently he just hit a huge milestone. He had his very first clutch of Dwarf Reticulated Pythons, so we're going to dive into his journey with reptiles, what led him into Retics, and of course, we'll be breaking down the exciting pairing that he had that's going to be producing 84.375% Jampea Pythons. I believe we may hit some Anery on that as well, but I'm going to let Chris kind of dive into that. So let's welcome him on in.
Whether you've poured your heart and soul into your reptile business or you've just begun your business journey, AE Foundry has you covered with next-level expertise in graphic design, motion graphics, videography, photography, and so much more. If you've been dying for a new logo for your reptile business, motion graphics for your current logo, a new website, or need assistance making your video podcast come to life, then listen carefully. AE Foundry's mission places storytelling at its core. AE Foundry believes that a distinctive story and background are the driving forces that set your brand apart. In today's market, consumers seek more than just products. They crave a connection built on trust with the brands they cherish. AE Foundry is committed to empowering small businesses and fostering authenticity that resonates with their consumers. Reach out to them and let them help you craft a visual narrative that helps establish a genuine and lasting connection with your audience. To contact AE Foundry, email them at aromero@aefoundry.com or on Instagram at AE Foundry. When it comes to housing your retics, trust me, you're going to want an enclosure that will be just as strong and durable as your reticulated python. The Heartland Reptile Enclosure is next level tough and will outlive you and your retic by several generations. Heartland Reptile Enclosures are designed and manufactured out of powder-coated aluminum to provide the highest quality and longevity available in the reptile enclosure. What makes them even better is they are lighter than your PVC and plastic enclosures out there and are extremely tough. Stop playing around with plastic enclosures for your large constrictors and step up your enclosure game with the Heartland Reptile enclosure. To inquire about one of these enclosures, speak to Jordan himself at Heartland Reptiles on Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. Here on TRL, we preach about the importance of using hooks, feeding tongs, and other tools with your reticulated python all the time. Animal Equipment by Stoney not only has all the tools you need for any snake you keep, but they have the absolute best hooks on the market. What sets Animal Equipment by Stoney's hooks apart from the other guys is their polycarbonate hook ends that provide a warm feel that won't disturb or bother your retic, ensuring a positive interaction from the get-go. Since 2008, AE Stoney has been supplying zoos, herpetologists, and other animal professionals with their tools. It's time for you to step your hook game up and buy an AE Stoney hook. To learn more and purchase one of their amazing products, visit aestoney.com.
Hey,
What's going
everybody.
on, Chris? How's your night going?
Oh, my night's doing great. Typical week at work, and come home, check on the animals, take care of that situation, and just chill out, relax, watch some TV as the night goes along.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time being out here. I mean, I know we both have some early mornings ahead of us, but taking a little bit of time out of your evening, that means a lot to both me and Lucas. So thank you.
No, thank you guys. You guys have been great for me. Helped me a lot in my journey.
Yeah, I mean, you were among the first batch of Patreon members that we had. So I mean, the the support goes both ways for sure.
Oh yeah.
So as we're getting into this, I want you to do just kind of the typical thing. Give us a little bit about your background. You can go as far as your childhood if you want, but just give us a little bit of insight into who Chris Schar is, what got you into reptiles, and what's some of the first stuff you were keeping, that kind of thing.
Sure. All right. So for those of you that do know me, I've been keeping reptiles for quite a while. For the people that might not know me, I've been keeping ever since I was a kid, been intrigued with snakes, reptiles, lizards, salamanders, all that. I grew up in the city, moved to the edge of town, first, second grade, whatever age that would be. And I remember my dad calling me outside saying, "Hey, come check this out." Turns out he wasn't a fan of them, but there was just a regular garter snake in the yard. And I don't know, what are you when you're in second grade? 3, 4 years old, 5 years old? Something
I
like
think
that.
like 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I thought it was just the coolest thing in the world. And, being a kid, not knowing any better, I go to pick it up. And what does any wild caught snake want to do? It turns around and bites you. Well,
Oh, they always just musk me.
yeah, oh, yeah, not this one. But it might not have helped that dad was mowing lawn at the time and probably agitated it a little bit. But, kind of ever one of those first memories that I can remember with snake encounters, and thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread, for lack of a better term. And always enjoyed them. Little bit later, got older. I was 12, 13. We moved out into the country. So I had 80 acres of wooded land, swampland, that newts and salamanders and grass snakes and pine snakes galore. It was a heaven for me, for anybody that liked those type of stuff. It'd go be nothing for me to walk around the woods and flipping over logs looking for whatever I could find. And much to my parents' dismay, they didn't like it. I would bring them home, put them in a shoebox, because what kid wouldn't? Parents would be putting laundry away, and what's in this shoebox? Well, nothing. Well, what was in there? Well, have to explain, Mom, that there was a snake in there and you don't really know where it is. So kind of that little demon child effect there, but you
You weren't a cause of sleepless nights. It's all right.
no, not at all. um, Obviously grew up, still had that love of nature, went through the service, got back, and moved out of home. Decided, I went into this pet store for whatever reason, local pet store here at home. guy had a California king snake, and I thought that was, just the colors on it were something that you're not used to seeing. Just a black and white California king snake.
Can you remember about the percentage of black and white on that one that you saw?
It looked almost 50-50 from what I remember,
Okay.
and it was neat to me. So I had him get one in, and I don't know where he got it from. I didn't ask, but it was like $30-$40 at the time. Brought it home, and this is in the 2000s before PVC caging and everything. So little 10-gallon aquarium with the red and neon light on it or whatever for heat, and well, snakes are escape artists to say the least. Ended up losing them and never did find them. So
that pattern continued.
right, yep. Well, and a year or so later, went into the pet store and saw a boa constrictor. Same pet store, saw a boa constrictor, just your common boa. And oh man, I really like that pattern, like that color. So ended up getting that. And I had that snake for, I want to say, close to 12 or 13 years. So I had that boa constrictor, and along the way acquired Burmese python in the mix of that. I had a black and white tegu along the way. So I've had a few of those, and learned a hard lesson about quarantining animals. I started to get the idea way back then of breeding snakes, and I bought a male boa constrictor and didn't quarantine properly, and it turned out that it was carrying IBD.
Okay.
And ended up all three of the snakes perished. So that was a gut check moment right there. A lot of time put into all three of them, and probably took 6 years after that before I got another boa constrictor again. This time an actual Suriname boa constrictor, and she grew up. She's 8-9 feet now. Still got her. She's still growing strong. And then that little itch, almost like I kind of want a new toy. And I always thought reticulated pythons were cool, neat looking animals, probably one of the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing snakes, just in its natural form. And
Do you remember the first time you came across the species, or like what introduced you to them?
Probably either watching, this is going to date me a little bit, but either Austin Stevens, Snake Master,
Yeah.
Jeff Corwin might have been it, or Steve Irwin.
Okay.
I watched all three of those guys religiously on Animal Planet, Nat Geo, one of those channels. So saw it and started to hear on the internet murmurs of smaller snakes, because I knew a 20-foot snake, and this is exaggerating, but large mainland retic just wasn't feasible for me. So
Nor most people, but yeah.
right. So then I started hearing and seeing more and more talk of dwarf and super dwarfs. So I started researching it a little bit more, and it went down a rabbit hole that led into 16 different reticulated pythons in my house right now.
Okay. And do you want to kind of talk about what else you're keeping over there?
Yeah, so I also have the Suriname boa, like I talked about, and I got a male for that, with potential future plans to breed those as well. Just boas are another one of those good snakes that most people can deal with, and they're generally on a calmer disposition. And then I have an emerald tree boa as well, just that visual green snake with that nice, this is just a northern but still sawtooth pattern on it. To me is just an incredible looking snake.
And the heads on them, I mean,
Yeah,
they're just insane looking. I
it's
think
like a
some of my
bulldog
favorite
head.
animals.
Yeah, it's like a bulldog head.
Yeah.
And then, if that wasn't crazy enough, I also have about a 5-foot Nile monitor head to tail that, to say he hates 99% of the world is an understatement. He puts up with me because I feed him and change his water, but if the wife or the dogs get near the cage, he's whipping that tail at them. He's not friendly towards them. But they don't spend time with them, so he's not gonna form that, so to speak, trust or bond that he understands that, hey, I'm there for not to harm him.
Well, and monitors are super intelligent, so I mean, yeah, and I mean Niall's just in general not the sweetest disposition generally. So yeah, I could imagine if they haven't formed a bond with him, he doesn't trust them.
No. And then, as if a Nile wasn't bad enough for most people, I decided to dive into the Cayman category. For those that don't know, a crocodilian, but it's the Cuvier's dwarf. So this one will be a shout out to Jamie. Buttons definitely enjoys the screen time once in a while, but he's
If we don't need
good.
more reason for people to join the Discord, is we do our twice monthly Zoom meetings with everyone, and every once in a while we'll bully Chris into pulling out the Cayman for a little bit. It's getting a little big and getting a little too out of hand to get him to do it all that much recently, but if we get enough people on there getting in his ear, sometimes he'll pull him out until he starts wiggling on him too much.
Yeah, when he starts turning into a worm, it's like, all right, I don't feel like having to go to the hospital to reattach part of my finger. He can't, don't think he could quite effectively remove it yet, but just wouldn't want to take that chance either.
We also want to thank VivTech Products for being an affiliate sponsor of the Retic Lounge. Stop by VivTech Products for the best UV spectrum lighting on the market that will enhance and improve your snake's overall well-being and health. Visit vivtechproducts.com and use the code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off. Again, visit vivtechproducts.com and use our affiliate code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off. Looking for the perfect accessories for your hatchlings or juvenile retics? Look no further than Heli Guy Serpents. Our sponsor, Chris Sexton, is coming in hot with an amazing 3D printer, creating top-notch perches and other caging accessories for your beloved pets. Enrich your retics environment with their high-quality products. Use our promo code TRL10 for a 10% discount on your purchase. Visit them today at heliguyserpents.com and start giving your pets the best. Heli Guy Serpents, the premier source for 3D printed caging accessories. Again, that's www.heliguyserpents.com and use our promo code TRL10 for 10% off all of your 3D printed accessories today.
He could get far enough through that it wouldn't be worth testing out.
Right. But hey, at least he can't unalive me yet.
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 Hey, but I mean, so could the retics given a really bad day.
Oh yeah, I got one of my larger girls down there, and if she's flighty like she normally is when you first pull her out, she definitely lets me know that if she wants to go somewhere, she's gonna go there.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big guy, but I'm not a small guy either. I'm 5'8", 180, 190 pounds, and she can definitely let me know when she wants to go somewhere.
I believe it. So do you want to quickly just go over what kind of retics are out in your collection?
You want the morphs or the localities? Or both?
Both. Yeah,
Okay.
both.
So this is going to be a little bit tricky just because I kind of got to go in an order here, but I got a pair of F1 Halmaharas, male and female. For those that don't know, they're an incredibly dark snake for a retic, but nice, stunning visual colorization to them. Moving around, I have just a normal wild type pattern that is 100% het either albino or Indo caramel that I'm growing up, and that's a female. And she's just 50% super dwarf that I also plan to pair with a 50% albino Calatoa that I have. So hit hopefully on the orange glows out of that clutch. But then move over, I got a golden child 50% Jampea that is 66% het Indo or albino, and also Anery.
Okay.
I have another 50% Jamp that's 66% het albino and Indo. And then I have a male 50% Jampea, 100% Anery Indo. So that's a cornerstone of a collection that I'm going to work to there to try and prove out.
Get the endos and work them into some locality stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think personal opinion, I think a Halmahara with the nice thick blacks on that Indo would create just some visually stunning snakes there.
That's kind of what I was hoping to hear you say. So good to hear. Good to hear.
And then let's see, if I move over to my next bank of cages, I have it's a 62.5% Jampea, Platinum, Sunfire, Tiger, 100% Het Anery, male. And then below her, I have I have a 68.75% Jampea, 100% Het Anery. And then below her, I have a Pure Anery Jampea.
Okay, is that everyone?
Nope, that's the Jampea stuff. If we move over into the next bank, I have a Pure Kalatoa female that was produced by CJ Retic of CJ's Pets.
Okay.
Below her, I have a 50% Super Dwarf, 100% Het Orange Ghost Stripe. And then below him, I have a 68.75% Super Dwarf. It's Kalatoa Madu. I cannot remember the exact percentages. Phantom.
Okay.
So there's no secret what the OGS and the Phantom are going to be for. And then if I move over into my next set of cages, I have a 50% Kalatoa Golden Child Tiger. That's a female. Below her, I have 68.75 Old School Super Dwarf from Matt Martin. That is a Tiger Anery. And then below her, I have a 50% Motley and small percent Jam.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this just to keep that straight myself.
It's a challenge sometimes, just figuring out what's what when you're talking on the spot.
Well, that and even when you're in your room, that's where a label maker really comes in handy and some good record keeping.
Now, if only I wasn't such a procrastinator and have printed it out, because it's on my computer. It's just printing it out and laminating and sticking it on there. Something that takes 20 minutes to do, keep pushing it off.
Hey, I put the Nate and procrastinate, so I get that.
Okay.
That's where the label maker really came in handy. Instead of having to do all the lamination process and everything, I just typed everything in, print, threw it on the cages. But there's a handful that still need it. So, like I said, I can procrastinate all day. So heavy into a little bit of the locality stuff, heavy into the Indo stuff. Of course, going to work the cow project. What kind of made you focus in on the Jampeas, the dwarf stuff to kind of start out?
I think it was just that everything I had read online, and there was a lot of misinformation at the time, or early information that super dwarfs were small boa constrictor size. And I'm like, well, me personally, I kind of wanted to go just a little bit larger than that. So that's where I started focusing Jampea size, because information on the internet, was telling me 12, 14 is average. A 8-9 foot boa, thick, girthy girl, she's manageable. I'm like, well, I want to go, I don't want to say challenge myself, but go something that I think will be manageable, but not extreme challenging either. That's still comfortable enough for an experienced keeper to work with by himself most of the time.
That's important to me, so I respect that.
Yeah.
enough fun, but not having to pull another person in to feel safe. It's always an added benefit when working with the dwarf super dwarf stuff. I'm not saying you can't work with a mainland alone, but if you really want to do stuff responsibly and on the smarter end of things, you're probably better off with a big mainland to have someone else around, or at least in yelling distance.
Right. And the wife, she's not overly a fan of snakes. Like I'll never get her to hold them, but she can definitely appreciate the beauty. And obviously, in an emergency, I think she would definitely help me out and try and get me unwrapped if something were to go sideways.
Depends on how the day went, I guess.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I met her along with you at that Tinley that I showed up to, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So as long as I haven't made her mad for whatever reason. No,
You would have had to make her real mad, I guess.
Yeah. No, I don't want to paint her out to be this bad person. She's going to be the person doing most of the typing and writing up of things for me just because she's better at that than I am.
Okay. Hey, help where her skills come in. That's nice. She
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to get hands-on, but she can help with some of the business side of things.
Right. And maybe if a guy's walking through and she's there and has a more presentable face than my ugly mug, it might help in the sales process too. Yeah, hey, guys got to pull out tricks where he can once in a while.
Cute babies definitely help too, but I
True.
have no doubt this Jampea clutch is going to be pretty special.
I'm hoping so.
What kind of made you choose this specific pairing? Why was this your first attempt at breeding? Was it just animal's age, or was this a specific thought out, planned out thing that you wanted to run for your first pairing?
I'm going to say a little bit of both at the time. I probably could have gotten my Tiger Girl to go this year, but there's so many Super Dwarf crosses out on the market right now that, and especially with Tiger, I didn't feel like I needed to add more to that, and it's not to discredit Tiger or people that have done it. It's just, I think you get 100 people selling the same type of animal. It's tougher than something more unique, more on its own. And just scrolling through Morph Market or Fawana Classifieds or any of those sites, there's not a lot of high percentage Jampea stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of people that keep them, but just not available. And so for me, it was, as so to speak, my first entry into the market. Let's throw something out there that's a little more unique.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, even trying to find baby pures is really, really increasingly difficult. Jampea, we're somewhat limited on our bloodlines out here. Do you know the bloodlines?
I know for sure of the pure, the 68 and 3/4. I'm not 100% sure on.
Makes sense. There's a little more that goes into that. Where's the pure from?
So the pure was from Theron Lance's clutch that he produced in, was that 22, I
Yep.
believe, which was I'm gonna say 50% gas bar, 25% Cashman, and 25% wild caught that came from the reach out clutch.
Okay. I know the gas bar stuff is definitely lying around in there. Um, yeah, Theron's talked to me about those animals, but like I've told you, like I've told our Patreon a million times, keeping all this stuff together for some reason isn't the easiest in my mind. I know Lucas is pretty good at just randomly accessing all of those little details and remembering who has what bloodlines. It's yeah. I like to keep just my stuff kind of logged in, but
Yeah,
yeah, trying to focus on the outside's tough for me.
right.
Um, let's see. So, uh, just before we get into this breeding in particular, are there certain other projects that you're hoping to work on in the future? Any like specific traits, any other pure bloodlines, anything like that?
As well, obviously, like we hit before, the Indo Caramel line, I wanna try and get that, or Orange Glows. I'd
The
like
cow
to work.
stuff we've kind of hit on.
Yep, I'd like to go for Super Phantoms.
Me
You
too.
know, just that pure white snake with the blue eyes. You know, I think is just a stunning snake in itself.
I'll
Um,
probably hit that before I hit cows at this rate, unless Spencer wants to work with me.
yeah, there you go.
Got to pester him a little bit more, you know.
Right, right. Always got to kind of just poke that bear a little bit once in a while.
Hey, he's just a short drive.
Right. I kind of want to do the Motley Golden Child. You know, kind of have that. We'll say the yin and the yang with the Super Phantom and the Motley Golden Child.
Okay.
Um, as it gets more prevalent, I wouldn't mind getting like a pied in the Super Dwarf. I mean, I know they're coming. They're not here yet, or at least not that I'm aware of in the higher percentage stuff. Um,
I think we're getting there.
yeah, we're getting closer. I do want to work with the ternate locality in the future just to add some more color into some of the animals, you know, and then what we've already touched on.
Okay. Cool. Well, uh anyone that was super helpful for you in terms of starting to breed, any mentors, anything like that?
I think Lucas is sick of me after this season. It seemed like every week or so I was calling him, "Hey, what's going on? You know, is this what I got to look for? You know, quick send him a picture and text him, "Hey, is this looking right?" You know, but he was extremely helpful and gracious to help me. Um,
No, he
Give me a
loves
lot
that.
of pointers along the way.
He
I
loves
did
that, and he's pretty seasoned at this point, so he's able to catch those nuances and be a pretty good asset to people.
right. Yep. There's some local breeders in the state that I've talked to. Tom Lossman, Reptile Tom. A lot of people in the old industry probably remember him, but he helped me along the way a little bit. I did talk to Amanda Bull from In Your Face Exotics on some questions because she's 2-3 hours kind of in the same state as me away, but we see each other at local shows around here enough that I was able to ask her questions, get advice from her. And then I did contact Rodney a few times from R&B Reptiles and read his book that he has, and he gave me some advice along the way as well. So I want to thank those guys if they're watching or will be watching for their help.
Absolutely. All good resources. So we get into your first breeding season. What was your process in getting everything ready?
So how I got her to go to cycle, you're saying?
Yeah, how you went about the feeding process, how you went about getting her to cycle, behaviors you noticed before pairing, that kind of thing.
Okay, so to start the season, this was back in January of 24, February of 24, just started upping her food size, but not increasing the frequency. Like if I was giving her a 2 pound rabbit or a 3 pound rabbit, I jumped her up to that 4 pound size, or a pig, whichever one was easier to grab. And it was just to build the body structure, get her that calcium content in her, and I carried that all the way through to August. And then once August hit, I started just hitting her with that same size food about every week to 10 days, you know, to really pound her. And then as she dropped off, her last meal she barely took. So I'm like, okay, she's going off food, and I let her have that meal, and I didn't even off her after that. And I did um the food drought. And then I hit her with some heavy meals after the food drought again. And all of a sudden, she was just hugging her cold side of her enclosure. She didn't want to sit under the heat. And everything that I remember hearing from everybody that I talked to was saying when they start hitting that cold side and staying over there, they're getting ready to cycle. So then start throwing the male in with her. Watching on the blink camera kind of felt like a adult film maker, always checking the camera. And I joke with the guys at work that I had snake hub going on in my house.
It does feel just a little bit pervy, doesn't it?
It does. So, I got him in there, and
both my breeding seasons have felt the exact same way. I'll be over at a friend's house and they'll be like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "You don't want to know."
snake porn.
Or no, I was probably too excited to be like, "Look, they're locking. They're locking."
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I'd put the camera on them just outside the cage, obviously, because you don't need them going at that. But the young male I paired with her, I mean, he went to town right away, and it wasn't an hour after I paired him the first time they were locked up, and he showed off, and he stayed with her locked up for, I bet you, a good hour, if not longer.
Do you remember noticing any signs of him like smelling pheromones, like arching, doing any of that behavior before pairing?
No, not with him, but I have a male right above this female, and he was very pacey or cruisy, but hugging the back wall and doing that classic arch. And that kind of was a sign to me that she's getting ready.
Okay.
He always is kind of a cruiser, the one that I had above her, but not at that level. So
Okay,
then,
so you got the alarm rang by a different male altogether. That's cool.
yep. And a different male in the corner of my albino, he was pacing a lot more, because they're all in the same room and smaller. Well, I shouldn't say smaller, but obviously a decent enough size room that the pheromones spread and triggered two of them.
Yeah.
So then obviously let him lock up, the pure lock up with my female, and then pulled him out after about a week and a half, because I think it was getting close to that feeding day for him. Gave him a couple of days off, paired him back up again. And by this point, she was starting to get real thick in that real last lower, I'm going to say lower half for most people, or lower third of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then pulled him out. And all of a sudden one day I walk up to the cage, and if I didn't have him out of there and in a different cage, I would have swear she ate him. I mean, she was just one giant lump right in the center. And when
that first swell that you see, it's pretty wild. Like,
there's no
haven't been
doubt at
eating
that
for a
point.
while, and just to see that huge swell, like they've eaten the biggest meal of their life, is just, it's different.
Yep. And at that point, it's like, all right, as long as I had all my timings down, I should be good. But then, of course, I'm not exactly a patient person, so I'm looking, oh, it's only day 2, or it's only day 10, and I got however many more to go before even the pre-lay shed. And then you got after the shed.
Now you continued pairing after that, correct?
I had them paired one last time, and they locked up, and I pulled them out again to feed them. And when I paired him again, he wanted nothing to do with her. Didn't want to
Yep.
go over by her. Didn't want to even explore around her. So at that point, it kind of is like tells me that the job was done, and she was gravid at that point, and he could tell.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed the same thing, and some of the advice I've gotten is, oh well, just keep pairing, just keep pairing. It's like, I can throw him in the cage, but the male is showing no obvious signs of interest, is hanging out on his lonesome every time I throw him in. So, I
Yep.
mean, I feel like they have a pretty good sense of when they've done everything they can do.
Yep. I mean, you when I put him in there before that, before everything was done, he would arch up. He would kind of get twitchy. He would almost do a rattlesnake effect with his tail. And then he'd get by her, and he'd start doing his thing, and she'd just, so to speak, lay there and let him crawl all over her. And after he wanted nothing to do with her, she was a little more twitchy. she didn't want him around, you know, and he just kind of stayed away. Didn't show any of the classic archingness.
Okay. Now, how long after you stopped pairing did she go through her prelay shed?
I was gonna say somewhere around 30-ish days. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly without looking at the exact dates of everything, but somewhere around that 30 to 40 day mark.
Okay, so she goes into her prelay shed. Is this her just going into the shedding process, or is this actually her shedding out?
So from the going into the shedding process was about 30 to 40 days to the prelay from when he didn't want anything to do with her.
Okay, good deal. And during this time, did you do any form of palpation?
Attempted to. um, Not knowing what I'm doing, it was a challenge. It wasn't until after her prelay shed, which I marked, you know, because I keep track of all my sheddings of my females,
Mm-hmm.
just for stuff like this. If you don't know when their shed cycles are, well, why is she shedding 26 days later? You know, it's abnormal for her. So it gave me something to backlog onto. But after she did her prelay shed, that's when I could noticeably start feeling I'm going to say like golf ball lumps in her.
And did you do the paper towel trick at all to make it a little easier on? Okay.
I did not know about that till afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, that's always been for me, like even when they're building follicles, I'll try my hardest to palpate and I'll get little hints here and there without the paper towel, but the paper towel for whatever reason allows you to feel that follicle development just a little bit easier for whatever reason.
I suppose they're able to kind of move through without your fingers gripping them a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, none of that resistance and they're just kind of sliding through, but it's crazy if you do it enough. I feel like I've been able to pretty closely count how many eggs are going to be coming out.
Yeah, and I was nowhere near close what I thought I was going to have. I thought I felt 6, 7 of them.
Sure.
24 of them later.
So she goes into her prelay shed, sheds out, you said about 26 days later?
So from her previous shed to her prelay shed was 26
Oh,
days.
okay.
You know, so that's where I had a real good feeling that everything was going right, because normally she's about 45-ish days, give or take, month and a half range when she sheds. So when that one hit, it's like, okay, that's definitely abnormal. That's probably her prelay shed.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say 26 days. That's a little while. So you,
Right.
you had about what, a week, 10 days before you saw her actually shed out?
Yeah, somewhere around that time frame, about a week. You know, I
Okay.
noticed her going, it was on one of our Zooms that I noticed her going into the blue. And then by the end of that week, you know, because we do them on Sundays, by the end of that week, she had shed out.
Okay.
And
And
she
do you
shed,
remember? Oh,
she
go ahead.
shed February 25th, and it was day 30 exactly that she laid on.
Okay. Now is the next question. So thank you. Let's see. You said how many eggs? Sorry.
So I got 24 good eggs and one slug for her first time.
That's a great first clutch.
Yeah.
And how do you go about setting up your incubator? What style? What are we using over there?
So for my incubator, I had a coworker give me an old, you know, like bar style fridge. I'll just say like a mini fridge, but it's probably, I'm actually using it for the computer right now, but it's I'm gonna say about 3 feet tall and about 2.5 feet wide and deep, and completely gutted it. Took the compressor motor, all that out of it, and I got like I'm gonna call it the Flex Watt heat tape, but that's not actually what it is. It's whatever the Reptile Basics brand is. I got that on the back wall to add as a heat source running on a herpstat for control system. And then I got a little like electronic style fan that you'd put on a computer to circulate the air in there so it doesn't have as many high or low spots in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to do the same thing and gut this thing out behind me, but I'm not handy enough to uh you know confidently not do anything to the Freon, and I don't want to have to mess with that. So I think I'm gonna leave her as be and
Yeah.
just throw some flex wad and some fans in there.
Yeah, if that works, that'll do the same effect.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked that because for whatever reason I thought you may be using the igloo method, but it's kind of cool also to know that the eggs we're talking about are right under the computer that you're using to record this right now.
Yeah, just because this is one of the few areas where there's really a good wall space. Everywhere else would have a cage or a light or a TV or something in the reptile room.
And did you candle all the good eggs?
I have not. I was too focused on trying to get them into the incubator and get them going that way. But I probably candled 4 or 5 of them, and I could definitely see veins in them.
Good deal. All right, we love that.
Yeah, and I did actually write down all the egg weights. I want to say the average egg weight was like around 116 grams. I had some as big as 140, I think was the largest, and I think the lightest was 106, not including the slugs.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would only be weighing my good eggs anyway. The slugs would really throw off that balance.
Right. The Nile monitor liked it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's a good little treat.
Right. What else are you gonna do with it?
For me, I mean, just toss it in the garbage can.
Yeah. I got a garbage disposal in the living room.
Okay, so what was the date that the eggs were laid on?
March 27th.
March 27th. So we're really only a handful of days into this, Chris.
Yeah, let's see, it's Tuesday today. Yeah, 5, 6 days ago.
All right. How are you feeling now that you've had that first clutch laid? What was that feeling like for you?
So it was definitely a good feeling knowing that everything went right on that end and no issues with the female getting egg bound or anything like that. Everybody has those horror stories that they've heard from talking to people, and
Sure.
it's definitely always in the back of your mind, even though you don't want it to be. And then once everything came out and she's now back to, for lack of a better term, normal, it's a relief on that sense. Exciting, glad everything went well. And then there's the side of, well, now the hard work comes. Now I got to be a people person and talk to a complete stranger about selling an animal or exposing myself on social media more, which, you guys can look, and there's not a lot that goes on my social media profile. Just I grew up from that generation that didn't really use it too much.
Well, the good thing is the babies make it extremely easy. All you have to do is be passionate about what you have. And like you said, there's not a lot of high percentage Jampea stuff. There's not a lot of pure Jampea stuff floating around there, especially for sale. So I
Right.
think you're going to have an easier time than you would imagine. And I really hope that anyone watching this episode goes over and gives you a follow and is anticipating this clutch.
Oh,
What day are you anticipating hatch date?
oh boy.
Do you remember the date off the top of your head? You said they were born or they
March
were hatched on
27th.
the 24th.
27th. I
Oh,
think I got 85 days as June 15th ish, I think is what I have. And I don't know if I just picked like an average. I've heard 80 to 90 on the incubation times.
it
So
would
I
be
just picked
around July 24th, it looks like.
July 24th. Maybe that's what I got. I can't remember. I got it in my calendar. I know that much. So one of
Well,
those.
that'll be a good July. Good,
right?
good little start to your summer. You better not have too many travel plans on your horizons.
Not in that month.
You better get them in before mid-July, because right after that you're gonna have a whole lot of work on your hands, my friend.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wasn't expecting as many eggs, so I got another like rack system for the babies coming, just because gonna need it, in the tubs
Yeah,
and
how are
everything.
you setting them up?
So I got one of those VE6 racks, I think it is,
Okay.
that I'm gonna put them in, and I got not the large size, but the medium size that I'll put them in. And then as I need to, I do have extra like 3 by 18 by 18 cages around that I can start moving them into and go into a bigger tub system if I need to until they move out.
That's cool. Yeah, I still have my little FB10 unit in my closet for like brand new babies, but after I get everything established, doing things on a smaller scale and not having, quite as many eggs generally, I'm really excited to start utilizing this as like a hatchling rack instead of just like a juvenile grow up rack. So
Sure.
yeah, but that's cool. I'm glad that you're utilizing just a little bit more space, not just throwing them in the smallest and most efficient rack that you can.
Right.
Well, that's exciting, Chris. Super, super exciting. So, uh, any any big challenges you faced during the breeding season, or any like unexpected circumstances that came up during the whole pairing and ovulation cycle?
Not so much on the pairing and the ovulation cycle was a challenge. It was just without really seeing it ever before, to know what you're looking at and to learn the signs ahead of time is tough without seeing it in action. It's not like some of the other markets where your next door neighbor might have the same thing doing the same project where you can just walk over, you know, whereas these are they're few and far between, it seems, of breeders in my area, at least, in of these. So to figure out what it looks like in person, walking around Tinley asking people a lot of times that I've made contacts with down there helped tremendously.
And any male breeding behaviors towards you, any hard times handling the male in and out of the enclosures?
Not with the one that I was pairing. I got one that is a jerk once in a while, but that's his normal personality.
Nothing to do with the female cycling, though, it sounds like.
Not that I can gather. Nope.
Okay.
And I don't want to make it sound like they're all like that. He's very cage defensive, I guess would be a good way, and food driven. But once you
Hmm.
bring him out, you start moving him around, he calms down and just becomes your normal everyday kind of snake, for lack of a better term.
Yep. That's pretty typical with my retics, so I get that. Only ever had really one extra special male that just, wanted to put his dukes up every time you had him out, especially during breeding season.
He wanted every piece of you and then some.
Any advice you would give people that are looking to pair up retics for the first time now that you've successfully done it?
Definitely think about what you want to do. Just don't throw two animals together just because you can.
I agree.
Think of something unique. Think of something that's going to get you to stand out, that's going to set you apart or set you above. If everybody's making, and this isn't meant to be a knock, but if everybody's making 50% Calicoa albino or albinos, shoot for 75%, shoot for 87.5%, whatever you can. Go a higher percentage, maybe go for an orange glow project, or throw a different morph in it that'll help enhance them. Throw sunfire in it. Go with a different locality. Don't be afraid to think outside the box once in a while instead of just following suit.
I agree. I have always said, you know, if if I were to have my ideal retic breeding market, everyone would be breeding stuff that, you know, is going to push the hobby forward at least a little bit. Take steps forward instead of producing the same thing over and over. You know, make sure you're putting together good pairings and not just for the numbers too, especially when working with mainland projects. I know it's sometimes easier to take the shortcut route and just get that 50% by, you know, taking some shortcuts with, you know, bigger animals. But if we really want to make some good super dwarf stuff, we'll use some smaller animals, smaller bloodlines, and, you know, really, like you said, try to get to those higher percentages, but also doing it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not everybody's equipped for a mainland. We've touched on that quite a bit, but with experience, I think most keepers could easily handle a higher percentage or even a pure super dwarf or dwarf locality and whatnot.
I'm pretty convinced at this point, if you've kept it all and you want to get into a retic, a super dwarf is a great way to start, especially, you know, I always preach getting babies and growing with them. Um, it's
Absolutely.
just, I think anyone can grow with a retic. It's just, are you going to put the time and passion into it? Uh, they really deserve a lot of your attention and they demand a lot of your attention as well. So, yeah, I agree. Anyone who wants to work with dwarf, super dwarf stuff, anything that stays a little bit smaller, it's very attainable. You just, you know, start small, grow with it.
Yep. And don't don't necessarily try and shoot for everything in your collection all at once. Don't be afraid to only start out with two, maybe three snakes if you do plan on breeding. But if you are going to do that, think of two or three that truly make sense, and are going to, like we've said, enhance the hobby and just start small. We don't need 500 snakes coming out from one breeder every year. It's the more you get, the more mistakes are going to happen. I always like it to, if you compare it into the dog world, a golden retriever is the number one dog that bites people in the US, but it's also the number one dog breed in the US as well. So the numbers go hand in hand on that.
Sure. Let's see. I feel like I had one more thing, but it's totally blanking on me now. Um, well, if I'm forgetting it that easily, it must not have been ultimately that important. Uh, Before we start to close up here, Chris, I do just want to share this really quick, just so everyone here gets a chance to just see the clutch, see what you're working with over there. This is Chris's Instagram account, everyone. Let me make this a little bigger for y'all. These are the eggs you're working with, but most importantly, Schar_92. Let's get those followers up. If you're excited about some high percentage Jampea stuff, potential for Anery, which would be huge for your first clutch, um, go and give him a follow. He's got some great looking eggs over in that incubator. Here's that female on the clutch. Dude, that was a cool moment to see one of our first Patreon members, you know, with a female sitting on a clutch of eggs. That stuff is really special to me. But yeah, everyone go give him a quick follow. Make sure you're getting ready for those snakes over there. Chris, anything you want to add before we start wrapping up?
I can't think of anything. I like I said, I want to thank everybody that's helped me along the way. You, Lucas, Amanda, Rodney, all those guys. You guys made it easier for me, not necessarily less stressful, just with the nature of it, but made it so much easier. And I can't thank you enough for all of your help that you've given me over the years.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for being a supporter of Lucas and I over the years. And, really cheering us on. That means the world to us. I know Lucas would probably say the same thing, but Chris, I really look forward to come July or early August having you back on and really going over what you got in that collection and, showing off some babies,
Yeah.
maybe pulling out a couple on camera and just really, really getting people excited. I know it's exciting looking at eggs, but nothing is more exciting than seeing some babies. And for you, dude, that anticipation of seeing that first nose out of the egg and just all those babies pipping out, I'm stoked for you. I always tell people one of the biggest reasons beyond, breeding some of the most beautiful snakes on the planet that I get enjoyment out of it is just seeing those babies pipping out. There is nothing that comes closer than that feeling of like a great Christmas morning as a child.
It is kind of unwrapping a present.
Yeah.
They do it for you.
Yeah. I still vividly remember the moment that I saw my first babies hatching out, and dude, just really stoked for you. Really excited to see some of those babies. That's stuff that I could even see myself potentially keeping down the road. So, yeah, dude, thank you for your time tonight.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, I'm going to send you to the back and we're going to take this thing to a close.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everyone. Like I said, get pumped on those eggs. We have some really high percentage Jampea babies on the line. I'm keeping my fingers crossed personally for some Anery. I think Chris is a great dude, really deserves the win. I mean, it's a win overall just having these eggs. It's a win getting to see those babies, but I'm really crossing my fingers that he gets that little extra win there too and gets some great looking Anerys. I know that people would be over the moon with that. This has been episode 134 of the Retic Lounge. I'm excited to let you guys know that next week we are going to have one of my favorite comedians on who is also a reptile keeper, Mr. Sergio Chacon. So make sure you stay tuned for next week. And until next time, this has been the Retic Lounge.